try getting this travel grant, and we will learn you. Next time we will keep session on that also. Sir has got many publications, more than 50 publications in national and international journals, as well as sir an editor of more than 5 journals. And if I speak each and everything regarding sir, it will take I think half an hour. So I am restricting myself here. And now over to you, Dr. Jaykaran sir. Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I think I'm audible now.
Yeah. You are audible, sir.
So good morning, everyone. Dr. Chinmay, thank you very much for nice introduction. Basically, in today's session, we are going to discuss one of the very important thing related to research methodology, and that is the selection of statistical tests. So what can you expect from this lecture? So during this lecture, we will discuss what are the steps for selection of appropriate statistical tests. What are the scales of measurements? Whether our data are measured in nominal scale, ordinal scale, or ratio and interval scale. And then we'll talk about distribution of the data. And then we will use flowchart to select the appropriate statistical test with some examples. And I hope this will be very appropriate and suffice to select the correct statistical test for your research, as well as to critically analyze the published paper. Now, what other cool benefits you can get out of this knowledge? So you will be able to find mistakes in the published literature about the appropriateness of statistical tests. I will not say it mistakes, but you will be critically appraised, you will be able to critically appraise the published paper. And then you may try to write letter to editor. I have written many such letter to editors. You will be able to ask questions in the conferences and journal clubs about the statistical tests. You may say that though your data is very good, your questions are very good, but the test was, I think the test was not appropriate. And that may impress your colleague and your superior that you are very good, you have very good knowledge about the statistics. And I get a lot of praise for such things, but this is little knowledge. There is not all about statistics, but then just knowing these things may get you praise, and if you will be able to impress your colleagues and superiors. So with these benefits, I think you will get a lot of motivation to focus on the coming slides. So when we talk about recipe of selection of statistical tests, there are 3 or 4 important things which we should know before selecting the statistical test. First and very important one is type of data. And when we say type of data, means we are talking about scale of measurement. A data can be classified into various methods. By various methods you can classify the data, but we, for our specific objective of selection of a statistical test, need to focus only on the scale of measurement. Then we should know whether our data follows the normal distribution or not. And the easiest one is, what is the goal of analysis? What we want to compare? Whether we want to compare 2 groups, or we want to compare 3 groups, or we want to compare only baseline and follow-up data of 1 group, or we want to predict something based on some variables, or we just want to see the association between 2 variables. And that is the easiest one, because when you write the protocol, you know very well what endpoints are there and when you are going to compare and what you are going to compare with what. So it is very easy. So out of these three, decision about the type of data in the form of scale of measurement is the crucial one. If a researcher is able to classify his or her data based on the scale of measurement, then I think that is the most crucial knowledge, and based on that it will be very easy to select the appropriate statistical test. Normal distribution, yes, that is also needed. There are very easy method to see the normal distribution. Any software will do it for you. This is more technical than the intellectual ability needed to classify the type of data. And goal of the analysis, that is the easiest one that everyone knows, every researcher knows when he or she writes the protocol. So now in the first part of this presentation, we are specifically going to focus on the scale of measurement. Once that is done, everything is very easy. Even this is also very easy, but out of these three things, the scale of measurement is a crucial one, and it may require some intellectual input from you. So focus on early 4 or 5 slides, and then it is all easy. So basically, there are 4 scale of measurements: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So usually the data which we collect for our research fall in one of these 4. Nominal is lower level of scale of measurement, and ratio is the highest level of scale of measurement, and we should be able to classify our data into these 4. Now this interval and ratio scale is very much similar, and differentiating interval from ratio or ratio from interval, that is not needed, because to select the appropriate statistical test, we should be able to just classify our data into nominal, ordinal, or any one of these 2. So because same set of statistical tests are used for these 2 scales. So even if you are not able to differentiate between interval and ratio scale, no problem. We should be able to classify our data into nominal, ordinal, or any of the 2. So the first one is the lowest level of scale of measurement is the nominal. Now nominal basically is a scale which measures a variable. Now variable is the endpoint which we are measuring actually. Any endpoint which we are measuring for our research is variable. For us it is variable, right? So any variable. So nominal scale measures a variable which has categories, and there is no natural order or ranking amongst the categories. So we will discuss it with examples, then it will be very clear. So basically nominal scales measures a variable. We are measuring a variable which has categories, and these categories are mutually exclusive. There is no relationship between these categories. No category is more than the another. There is no natural order. There is no ranking. For example, in a research, I want to see the gender. I want to see, suppose I'm doing a descriptive study on COVID-19 patients, and I want to see which gender affected most, right? So I am collecting the data for gender. Now this gender is a variable which has 2 categories, male and female. I may code male and female by 1 and 0 or 1 and 2, or I can just put M and F. So these are the categories, but there is no natural order. One is not more than 0, because this is a arbitrary coding which is done by me, right? There is no order. There is no difference between 2 categories, male and female. There is no difference. Nothing is, I mean, the male is not more than female or female is not more than male. Both are exclusive categories which can be counted. We can give the percentage. right? But we cannot add these categories. We cannot have 1.5 male, right, or 1.5 gender, or 1.75 gender. No, it cannot be done. We cannot add. We cannot have mean for this kind of data, because these categories are exclusive categories. So such kind of measurement where there are categories and where we have exclusive categories, there is no natural order, no ranking. These are known as nominal scale. These kind of data are measured in the nominal scale. So nominal comes from variable which can be named, which can be labeled, and there is, as I already mentioned, there is no order, there is no measure of distance between two values. Will not make any difference between 1 and 0, and we can list categories any order. 1 can be put first and 0 can be put later, because 1 and 0 doesn't mean the actual numerical values. These are just the codes. We can code male by 1 and female by 0, or male by 1 and female by 2, or we can just put the string data male and female, or M and F. So nominal variables are the simplest type of variables where there are categories. I'm repeating again and again just to make the things very clear. Where there are categories, mutually exclusive categories, which has no natural order or there is no ranking. So here, suppose I'm collecting data like male, female, female, male, and if I'm coding these by 1 and 2, 2 and 1, similar to, I can code in different way, right? So here we can see that so here you can see that this 1 is for male, 2 is for female, 2 is for female, 1 is for male, and this is how I'm collecting the patients of COVID-19, and this 2 is not more than 1 actually, or there is no point of trying to measure difference between 1 and 2. 2 minus 1 is not 1 actually, right? Because these are exclusive categories. So such kind of data, when we collect for our research, falls under the nominal scale. So nominal scale is usually used to describe the patients, like gender, eye colors, blue, brown, green, hazel, or outcomes like dead or alive, blood types, or there may be thousands such examples where the categories are exclusive. There is no relationship between the categories, there is no order, and there is no ranking. Each category has the equal weightage and mutually exclusive. Second scale of measurement is ordinal. Now, in the ordinal, there are categories. In ordinal, there are categories. In nominal also there are categories. But in ordinal, there is order. As name suggests, there is a hierarchy. There is a order. There are higher values, lower values, from higher to lower, lower to higher. So all such data where there are orders, and there are categories which has orders, falls under the ordinal type of the uh, uh, scale of measurements. Now let me give one example. So these are the marks obtained by students, and now I am giving the ranking based on these marks. So these marks are not ordinal scale of measurement, but the ranking is. So this is the person who, the student who got 900 marks is having first rank, and 85 marks second rank, and then the third rank 80 marks, and 74 fourth rank, and then fifth one is having 50 marks. Now if we collect data in this form, not in this form, if we collect data in the ranking form, then this data is, the scale of measurement is ordinal. Now you can see here, this is first rank, this is second rank, third, fourth. Now there is no equal interval, and we are not supposed to even count the interval, because the difference is not meaningful. These are the arbitrary ranking given by us, though it is based on marks. There is a hierarchy. The first person got highest marks, the fifth one got lowest marks out of these five. So there is a order, there is a hierarchy, there is a direction. All these are interrelated, but there is no meaningful difference, and we are not supposed to find any difference because these ranking are given arbitrarily by us. So all ranking data can be considered as ordinal data. Now another kind of data which we collect very frequently for our for research related to medical education, or even some other research where we want to calculate some, we want to see some score or some satisfaction score, or some scale. Now such kind of scales are used very frequently in various kind of research. So here you can see that very interested, and then somewhat interested, and then neutral, and not very interested, and not at all interested. And these are the numerical expression of these things. Now, so again, these are arbitrarily given. There is no difference between them. There is no one. We cannot say the 4 is double than 2 because this is given by us. There is not very interested and somewhat interested. We cannot say that the person having somewhat the person who ticked somewhat interested is doubly satisfied as compared to not very interested, because these differences are not meaningful. So even such data where we use Likert scale or some other kind of scales are usually the ordinal data. So the difference we can say between the nominal and ordinal is both has categories. In nominal scale of measurement, we have mutually exclusive categories. There is no order, there is no hierarchy. Of course, there is no meaningful difference, and we should not try to find difference. In the case of ordinal data, again there are categories, but these categories has hierarchy. There is a order, they are interrelated, but there is no meaningful difference. So this scale of measurement is a bit higher as compared to the nominal type of scale of measurement. So we have various examples, and then if we just summarize the ordinal type of scale of measurement, then it has ordering of the categories. Then differences we don't know. There is no meaningful difference actually, and there may not be same difference because, and you have already seen the case of ranking data, there is no meaningful difference, or there is not same difference, and meaning of different levels may not be same for different individuals. You can design your own Likert scale where you may add some other parameters, so that may be different from the Likert scale made by someone else. So there may be subjectivity also. So such kind of research even cannot be compared if we are not using the same tool. So this was the ordinal scale of measurement. Examples like stages of cancer. So again, there is a hierarchy. Stage 4 cancer is more severe as compared to stage 1 cancer, right? Or stage 3 cancer is more severe than stage 2 cancer, but the difference between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 are not equal. We cannot say that the person having stage 4 cancer has double severity as compared to person having stage 2 cancer. The educational level also, that is one example of the ordinal scale. Pain level, mild, moderate, and severe is also a kind of scale which may falls under the ordinal scale of measurement. Then all the satisfaction level, agreement level, score, and scale which we use for satisfaction, all these falls under the ordinal scales. Now, this is the highest level of scale of measurement, and that is ratio scale. So here there are no categories. In nominal and ordinal there was categories, but in the ratio there is no category, but it has values, and these values have equal intervals, and there is a numerical relationship between these numbers, and this difference between 2 points are meaningful, and difference between 2 adjacent points are equal. For example, various parameters which we normally calculate during the medical research, like weight or pulse rate or respiratory rate. Now we know that 100 kilo is double than 50 kilo, 200 kilo is double than 100 kilo, The difference between 10 and 15 kilo is same as difference between 15 and 100 kilo. Or difference between 10 and 20 kg is same as difference between 20 to 30 kg, right? And it has 0 point also. When at 0 point, 0 means not having that variable, right? So when we say 0 pulse rate, so this pulse rate cannot be measured. 0 pulse rate, actually 0, right? So let me give an example. For example, this is the drug concentration. So if we want to measure drug concentration, so it is in the microgram, suppose. Now here you can see these are the values of drug concentration. Now 0 drug concentration means drug is not there. If you want to measure drug concentration in the blood, and you say 0, 0 means it is not there. So if it is 1, 25, 50, 75, 100, this 50 is double than 25, 100 is double than 50. Difference between this and this is equal to this and this is equal to this and this equal to this and this, right? So the difference is also meaningful. Such kind of data we can add, we can subtract, we can even multiply, we can divide also, right? But the data like ordinal data or nominal data cannot be added, cannot be subtracted, because all those numerical values were arbitrarily given by us. There was no meaningful difference between those categories, but here there are values, and values has meaningful difference, and there is a absolute 0. 0 means not having that variable. 0 drug concentration means drug is not there. Now this ratio scale is the highest level of scale, and it has very little difference from the interval. That's why I have told you that for you at this level, interval and ratio are same, because to select the statistical test we do not need to differentiate ratio from interval. So what is interval? Now interval is very much similar to the ratio, except it does not have absolute 0. The 0 point is arbitrary. For example, Celsius scale, measuring temperature in Celsius scale. Now 0 degree temperature is also there. It doesn't mean that there is no temperature. Look, we also measure temperature in minus 30, minus 20. So 0 is just a point on the scale, but it doesn't means not having that variable. So this is the only difference between the interval and the ratio scale. In the ratio scale, there is the absolute 0. 0 means the variable is not there. In the interval scale, 0 is just a number on the scale. It doesn't mean the absolute 0. It doesn't mean variable is not there. Now IQ, no one can have 0 IQ, right? IQ, everyone has some IQ, right? So, or years, we don't know when the year, who started counting the years, right? We don't know when was the 0 year, right? There are some variables which does not have the absolute 0, and these variables when measures are falls under the interval scale. But for selection of statistical test, we do not need to differentiate interval from the ratio. Okay, so higher level of variable means ratio or interval scale variable can always be converted into the lower level of variable. So if you calculate, if you have data of like blood pressure, so systolic blood pressure. Now systolic blood pressure is a ratio variable, right? Okay, now that can be converted into the ordinal data, and ordinal type of scale of measurement. Like you can say that my normal blood pressure, mild blood pressure, moderate blood pressure, or severe blood pressure. So there is a hierarchy, and but there may not be equal interval between these values. So that is the ordinal type of scale of measurement. Or we just classify into person having normal blood pressure and high blood pressure. So these are two mutually exclusive categories. So that may fall under that falls under the nominal scale of measurement. Similar to the BMI, so we just have BMI 23.4. That is the BMI. That is the ratio scale. But then we can convert it to the ordinal scale by having the specific class intervals, or we can convert it into nominal categories by having only two categories, mutually exclusive categories. So whenever you calculate the data, this is not related to the subject, but I want to be passing remarks. Whenever you collect the data, even if you are sure that your research requires lower level of data, then also we should collect the higher level of variables, higher level of data, because it is always possible. It is always possible to convert higher level of variable into the lower level of variable, but opposite will not be true. If you only have 1 and 0 categories, then you will not be able to convert it into the actual blood pressure data. But if you have actual blood pressure data, then you can always convert these data into the ordinal scale or nominal scales. So for example, this table, this is a table where they are comparing two groups based on CA, BG, and PTCA, and these are two groups. And now you can identify the variable, what kind of variables we have. So age is, as you know, it is a ratio interval. 0 means the person is not born yet, right? So age is the ratio interval. Weight is also a ratio interval. Gender, male and female, this is nominal scale. Education, now you can see the order here, right? Difference may not be same in these orders, in these categories. So this is the ordinal kind of data, ordinal kind of scale of measurement. Prior hospitalization, there may be 0 also, right? And then there will be equal interval between two adjacent values. So this is again the ratio data. And mortality, alive is 5 years, so this is alive or death. So there are two mutually exclusive category. Such kind of data are nominal scale data. They fall under the nominal scale. So I think by this time it is very clear for you what kind of data we are dealing with. And when we say data, means we are talking about the scale of measurement. We are not saying qualitative or quantitative data, or discrete data. That we are not talking. We are not explaining that because that may confuse you. So just focus on this scale of measurement for the sake of selection of skill test. For academic interest, we can always discuss such kind of data, and that you can go through from different books, which is again very easy. But just not to make you just not to make you confused here. If you focus only on our aim of selection of a statistical test, then we should be able to classify our data into 3: nominal, ordinal, or rest. If that we can do, half thing is already done. It is very easy to select the statistical test once we know about this. So blood cholesterol, what kind of data it is? It is a ratio. Mild, moderate hypertension, mild, moderate, severe hypertension. Again, this is the ordinal. Diabetic, non-diabetic, it is nominal. Satisfaction index, Likert scale, that is ordinal. So this was about the type of scale of measurement, and I think it was very clear to you. Based on this much knowledge, you'll be very easily able to select the statistical test. Second thing which we should know, the second ingredient for recipe of statistical selection of appropriate test is the distribution of data. Now here,
Sir,
yes, please.
one question is that age and weight are in which category?
So age and weight. Now age has absolute 0. Person is not born and has 0 age, right? Weight having no variable is 0 weight. So it 10 kg weight is double their 5 kg weight. Difference between 1 and 2 kg weight is same as 2 to 3 kg weight. So all these data are ratio data, ratio scale of measurement. But you can convert it into the nominal. For example, based on age, if you convert this data into the say old age person and young person, suppose then if you want to share, you want to calculate such data, that how many were having age more than 60, how many were having age more than 18, and then when you take percentage, then this is converting a ratio scale into the nominal scale. Or you can have order also, like you adolescent and young age, and then the old age and very old age. So if there is order, then that is the ordinal data. So as such, in raw form, the age, weight, blood concentration, blood pressure, all these are the ratio data. Hello.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, so Now let's talk about distribution. So if our data is nominal or ordinal, if we have measured data in the scale of measurement which are nominal and ordinal, then there is no need to check normal distribution, because we know that this data does not follow the normal distribution. We have to check normal distribution only when our data is ratio or interval, because nowadays we have software available to everyone. So so if you just look, even if you try, so when you try to see the normal distribution, even nominal ordinal data, the software will give you some result, right? But that is not appropriate. So no need to check the distribution in the case of nominal ordinal data, because we know very well that these data does not follow the normal distribution. When we have data in ratio and interval scale, then only we need to check the normal distribution. So this is a typical normal distribution. You all know very well. It's been taught to you again and again in various classes, in community medicine classes. It's a bell-shaped curve, very smooth curve. Mean, median, and mode lies in the center. And then within the one SD, there are 68% values. Within two SD, there are 95% values. So this is the normal distribution. Now, just by clicking one or two tab on the SPSS or some other software, you will get all kind of plots and tests through which you can get idea about the distribution of data. I'm going to explain how to do it. It's very easy. You can just see a YouTube video. But I'll tell you what are those graphs and tests. So there are two kind of methods to check the data for normal distribution. One is visual method, another is normality test. Now, basically, decision about normal distribution, whether our data follows the normal distribution or not, that should be taken by looking at the various graphs and chart and normality test, and decision should be taken holistically by considering all variables, all such variables, because there may be contradiction. Visual method may say that data is bit not following the normal distribution, but normality test may prove it to be following the normal distribution. So ultimately there may be some subjectivity. So in the case of any confusion, if in the case of any contradiction, then you can safely assume the data is following normal distribution, because it may be almost following normal distribution. So visual method, you can see the histogram. Just by looking at the histogram, you can get idea that this data is following normal distribution, right? It is very smooth curve. But then if you have such kind of histogram, then you can see that it is skewed toward one side. Maybe here it is skewed in the right direction, or there may be left skewed histogram. Just looking at the data, we'll get idea that the data is following distribution or not. So this is one method of using histogram. That there may be stem and leaf plot, or all these output will be there in the SPSS or some other software. So when we make stem and leaf plot, this is stem, this is leaf, and you can see this data follows the normal distribution. You can reverse it, you can just change it like this, and so this is followed. This is again a visual method, right? And see, this is not following normal distribution. This is stem and leaf plot. Then we may have box and whisker plot, very frequently used. So here you can see that this lies the median, and both quartile are similar, so it follows normal distribution. And this does not follow normal distribution. This also does not follow normal distribution. How we are knowing about it? Just by looking at the graphs, looking at the charts, right? So this is a visual method. Then we can have QQ plots, PV plots. So this follows normal distribution, and this does not follow normal distribution. Again, this is also a visual method. There will be some other charts also, or the plots also. And then we have normality tests. So again, there are various normality tests, but usually people report these two tests: Kolmogorov-Smirnov test, KS test, and Shapiro-Wilk test. Your software will give output for this, and if these tests are significant, p-value generated out of these tests, if it is significant, then we can infer that distribution is not normal. So these are the various methods of checking the distribution of data. It may look difficult for the people who are listening it for first time. Believe me, it is very easy. It's very, very easy. Very easy. You can learn it just in 5 minutes. Not a big deal. So once you have idea about the your type of your data, scale of measurement, and if your data follows the if your data falls under ratio interval scale, and then you know the number whether your data is following the normal distribution or not, then you have to use this chart. It may looks complicated, but it's not. No need to remember this chart. Just keep a copy of this chart with you whenever you start analyzing the data, or whenever you want to select the appropriate test for your research. And with time, you will remember all these things. Okay, so let me explain this chart to you. It is very easy. So this is the goal, what actually we want to compare with whom. And suppose we want to describe only one group. So so in the first table, in every research we describe the group, right? So if we want to describe only one group, and if data is ratio or interval, and if it follows the normal distribution, then we should describe it by mean and SD. If data is ratio interval scale, if does not follow the normal distribution, then we should use median and range. If data is ordinal, then we should use median and range. So same description or same statistical tests are used when ratio and interval does not follow the normal distribution or ordinal data, because it also does not follow the normal distribution. And in the case of nominal data, we use proportions or percentages. This is just for description. We are not comparing it with anyone. Suppose we want to compare our sample to a hypothetical value. So you want to compare the blood pressure of your group with the blood pressure which was value of mean blood pressure, which was measured 10 years back, right? So you just have value, like average blood pressure of this population 10 years back was this. Now you are collecting the data to know whether the blood pressure is of your group is different from that value or not, or you may have some hypothetical value also. In that case, and normally in medical research, particularly at early stage, we do not use such kind of tests, particularly people from community medicine or people who do ecological studies, or in the quality control pharmaceuticals. These such kind of tests are used. So if your goal is like this, and data is ratio and interval, and if it follows normal distribution, then we should use one sample t-test. If the data is not following normal distribution, then we should use Wilcoxon test. That's same with the ordinal data. In the case of nominal data, we should use chi-score or binomial test. Now this we use very frequently. Comparison of two groups. This is the starting of every medical. I mean, whenever a PG started collecting some data for the thesis. So this is one of the frequently used goal where we compare two groups. Now these two groups may be paired groups. So paired groups mean there is only one group, but we are comparing the data of 2 time points. Suppose we are comparing some variable from the baseline to the one month measurement. So again, there should be only 2 comparisons, 2 time points only. So that is the paired groups. That is the paired that 2 groups will be paired groups. The group is only one, but the collection will be 2 times. While in the case of unpaired groups, these are 2 independent groups, and we are comparing both the groups from each other. So there is no time point. There may be time point, of course, but these are 2 different groups. But in the case of paired groups, there is only one group, but 2 time points are compared. So in case of unpaired group, suppose you want to see the effect of some drug, and there are 2 groups. One is drug group, other is placebo group. And after giving drug and placebo for 1 month, we want to compare some parameter. So that is unpaired group. Now if our data is under the ratio and interval scale, and if it follows the normal distribution, then we will use unpaired t-test. We will discuss all these things again with some examples. And if data does not follow the normal distribution, then we will use Mann-Whitney test. If data is ordinal, then again we will use Mann-Whitney test. If it is nominal, then we'll use chi-square or Fisher's exact test. If it is paired group, 1 month and comparison between 1 month and 2 months in the same group, or comparison between baseline and after 1 month in the same group, right? And if it follows the ratio interval scale, if it follows normal distribution, then the test we will use is paired t-test. If it does not follow normal distribution, it is Wilcoxon test. That's same with the ordinal data. And in the case of nominal data, it is McNemar's test. Now, comparison of 3 or more groups, that is very frequently used in the pharmacology research when we have animal groups, and usually we have 4 or 5 animal groups, different doses of same drug with the control. So we have now here we are having only 2 groups. Here we have 3 or more groups, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, more than 3 and more than 3. So when we talk about 3 and more than 3 groups, instead of unpaired and paired, we say unmatched and matched. Both things are same, right? We'll not go into detail why they are called unmatched and matched, but these are 3 and more independent groups, and this is the same group which is measured twice, baseline after 1 month or 2 months. So there are 3 comparisons. So matched is same as paired groups, unmatched is same as unpaired group. There will be little difference. No need to discuss that now. Because it hardly matters to us for selection of statistical test. So we have 3 and more groups, and these groups are unpaired groups, 3 independent groups, maybe 1 drug in 1 group, another in another drug, and placebo in 3rd group. And the data, the endpoint which we have measured for comparison is ratio interval. Then, and if it follows normal distribution, then we should use one-way ANOVA. If it does not follow normal distribution, we should use Pascal-Wallis test. If the data is ordinal, we should use Pascal-Wallis test. And if it is nominal, we should use chi-square test. If it is paired, if it is matched, and the endpoint is ratio and interval scale, and it follows normal distribution, then we use repeated measure ANOVA. In the case of not following normal distribution, we use Friedman's test. If data is ordinal, we use Friedman test. And if the data is nominal, we use Cochrane Q. Now, many times we just want to see the association between 2 variables. We will know whether if the one variable increased, what happens to another variable, right? So if that is the goal, just to see the direction and magnitude of association between 2 variables, and if both variables are ratio and interval scale, and if it follows normal distribution, then we can use Pearson's correlation. If it does not follow normal distribution, we use Spearman's correlation. If both are ordinal, we use Spearman correlation. And if both are nominal, then we use contingency coefficients. Now, many times we have to do the regression. Based on various factors, we predict something, right? So when we predict, we have dependent variable and independent variable. So dependent variable is the variable which we are going to predict, and independent variables are the variables from which we are going to predict actually. So there may be one predictor variable, there may be only one variable on basis of which we are going to predict the dependent variable, or there may be many variables. So usually we have many variables which we use in the regression equation to predict some event, right? So if there is only one variable, we just want to predict something based only on another independent variable, there is only one. And if your dependent variable, ratio and interval scale, please focus, we are focusing on dependent variable, the variable which we are going to predict. If there is ratio and interval scale, if it follows normal distribution, we'll use simple linear regression. If it does not follow normal distribution, we will use non-parametric regression. If the dependent variable is ordinal, we will use non-parametric regression. If it is nominal, we'll use simple logistic regression. but we want to predict based on the various multiple variables. And our dependent variable ratio interval scale will use multiple linear regression if it follows linearity. So I'm trying to keep it very simple just to make things very clear. I'm not going into details. Once you understand this, then you can go into detail. And if our the dependent variable is nominal scale of measurement, and we have various other independent variables based on which we want to predict this event of this, then we can use the multiple logistic regressions. So this was the explanation of this chart, so by examples we will understand it better. No need to remember this chart. You can keep the copy of this chart with you, and you use it when you actually utilizing it for the selection of test, and with time you will remember all these things. Very easy. So actually this was the paper I have published in 2010, and this paper is available in the full text here, just 2-page paper. This paper has this chart, so you can just click this slide by your mobile, and then you can download this paper. So this paper has what I am discussing now. Everything is there, just in 2 pages, so it will be very easy for you to understand all these things. So you can just click this slide with your mobile so that you can download this full text of this paper, which has this chart. Okay, so example 1. So we have few examples, 2-3 examples, and then I'm done. I think with these examples, it will be very easy to understand what we have discussed till now. So the first example, so this is a recent paper published in Indian Journal of Pharmacology, efficacy and safety of 7 days versus 10 days triple therapy based on levofloxacin dexlansoprazole for eradication of H. pylori, a pilot randomized trials. This was basically a trial where authors wanted to compare 7-day therapy with the 10 days therapy, and the result was the rate of eradication was 63.6% in levofloxacin in this group, 7-day group, and 90.9% was in the 10-day group. So this was the result. So this was the study published in recent issue of the Journal of Pharmacology, and so this is the result. One result where these are 2 groups, 7-day group and 10-day groups, and this was the difference in eradication, and the p-value is 0.029, which is very significant. So which test the authors may have used it? So I'm giving you 5 seconds to think, and then we'll discuss about it. Okay. So for recipe of selection of appropriate statistically test, I have told you we need 3 things. 1, what is our goal? 2nd, what kind of scale of measurement is this? And 3rd, whether it follows normal distribution or not. So here we can see the scale of measurement is nominal because it is eradication. Eradication is either it is eradication or no eradication. It cannot be partial eradication or full eradication, and you can see that they have given the percentage data. 63.6%, 90.9%. So they know that out of how many patients, out of all the sample in the particular group, how many got eradicated. In 10-day group, how many got eradicated from the whole sample, right? So this eradication and no eradication is mutually exclusive categories. There is no hierarchy. So this data is nominal data, nominal scale of measurement. Distribution here, I have told you when there is a nominal or ordinal scale, distribution is not applicable. You are not supposed to test this kind of data for distribution because this data does not follow normal distribution. The nominal data follows the chi-square distribution, so it does not follow normal distribution. So that we know very well. And our goal is to compare 2 unpaired group. There are 2 unpaired group here. One was 7-day group, other was 10-day group. It is a clinical trial. So about the aim was to compare 2 unpaired groups. So here we can see our aim was comparison of 2 groups. What kind of 2 groups? unpaired groups. What kind of data it was? Nominal data. So which test should be used? Fisher exact test or chi-square test. So this is how we can use this chart. Now in the same paper, what authors did, they wanted to see various factors which may affect the eradication. So this is 7-day, this is 10-day, and then these are factor age and that's all this. You can see they have dichotomized it. Age is basically a ratio data, but they have dichotomized it into the two groups. So now this, so frequency under this and this, that is now a nominal scale of measurement. Gender, male and female, is nominal. Again, smoke and no smoke, again nominal. So exclusive categories. Hypertensive, yes, no, that is again nominal. So there are various factors authors wanted to see whether it has any effect on the eradication or not. So basically, based on these risk factors, authors wanted to predict the eradication in both the groups separately. So so here we can see that which test it should be used. They may have used. So here the scale of measurement, again, scale of measurement here is eradication, right? Because ultimately these factors we want to see the effect of this factor on the eradication actually. So scale of measurement for the dependent variable is nominal. Distribution, again, not applicable. I have already told you for nominal data it is not applicable. And our goal was prediction from the several measured variables. So here we can see that the goal was prediction from the several measured variables, and the dependent variable was nominal. So test should be multiple logistic regression. So let's see what authors has written. So they have mentioned categorical variables were analyzed using the chi-square, and continuous parameters were compared between two groups using sprint t-test. The risk factor affecting the rate of eradication were identified by multiple logistic regression analysis. Okay, so now you can see that they have used the chi-square for categorical variable and multiple logistic regression to see the prediction of risk factor based on the eradication. So this is how it is. And the problem with such kind of narration is they have not mentioned what categorical variable, because we know that it was a nominal data, it was a categorical variable, but they should have mentioned that the eradication between both the groups were compared by using chi-square test. That will be more meaningful. So whenever you write about the statistical test, mention about each variable. Just giving this statement, generic statement, is not suffice, and it should not be encouraged actually. So so you can see that by using this graph, using the graph or this chart, we can easily select which test to use for our this thing for analyzing of the data. Another example is from the same journal, evaluation of efficacy and safety of methotrexate and pioglitazone in psoriasis patient. It was a randomized open label active control trial, and basically the primary endpoint was it is score actually. So they wanted to say the effect of these drugs on this PASI score, which is known as percentage psoriasis area and severity index. This is the score, and they want to see the effect of this on the PASI score. So basically it was a trial, and then after randomization, patients were allocated into 3 groups. Group 1 was given standard treatment, methotrexate was given, and group B was given pioglitazone, and group C was given both methotrexate and pioglitazone, and then they were followed up, and at the end they were analyzed for the PASI score. So this was the result. So group A, at week 0, it was this much PASI score, and then they have taken mean theoretic. So this is the mean, and this is SD. Mean theoretic, mean PASI score in all 3 groups. At 0 week it was like this, and at 4 week it was this much. At 8 week this was this much, and at 12 week it was this much. Now you want to compare these three groups at each time point, but we are comparing this with this or this with this. No, we are comparing these three from each other, right? So we have three groups, and scale of measurement is passing score. Now this is score. Many people say the scores should be the ordinal data. Many people say that if the score is having large values, it can be ratio data. So again, there is a controversy. But then let's assume it as a ratio scale, because authors has taken it as a ratio scale based on the test which they have mentioned. So this is a ratio scale, okay, and distribution they have not mentioned in the paper. So ideally, distribution should be mentioned in the paper. Without knowing the distribution, it is difficult. As you know that we will not be able to use the appropriate test if we does not know the distribution of data in the case of ratio interval scale. And then our goal is, of course, comparison of three or more groups. There are three groups in this paper, so our goal is to compare three groups. So here you can see that this is our goal. These are unpaired group, unmatched group, because we are comparing three groups at each time points. We are not comparing one group at different time points. We are comparing three groups at each time points. And it seems that the author considered this score as a ratio data. And though they have not mentioned the normal distribution, if this data follows the normal distribution, then we should use one-way test, one-way ANOVA. If data does not follow normal distribution, then we should use Kruskal-Wallis test. So in this paper, authors has used ANOVA test, one-way ANOVA followed by Tukey multiple comparison, of course. So it seems that they considered this data following normal distribution, and that's why they have used the ANOVA test. But they have mentioned in the paper, sometimes for the brevity, for the sake of less words, people do not mention everything about the statistical analysis. But ideally, these things should not be missed and should be there. So if this data, which is a ratio interval scale, again this can be debated, and if it follows normal distribution, we should use one-way ANOVA test. If it does not follow normal distribution, we should use Kruskal-Wallis test. Authors has used the one-way ANOVA. Then the last example is a relationship between height and arm span of the elderly person in the urban college of New Delhi. This was the paper published in Journal of Community Medicine, maybe. So basically, they wanted to see the relationship between two variables. One was height of the person, and then second is arm span of these people. These are elderly people living in the urban colony of New Delhi. So this was the result. Here you can see that from 7 to 74 year people, this is arm span and this is the height. So you can see that as the height is increasing, the arm span is also increasing. Opposite to it, that can also be and concluded that as you increase this will also increase, right? So again, this same here, more than 75, and this is sorry, yeah, years I mentioned here. So in different year categories, they have mentioned that the relationship between the height and arm span. So which test we have to use here? Just for such kind of data, just by looking at the scatter diagram, you can get some idea. Let's go through our system. So scale of measurement for dependent here for both the not dependent for both the variables. Yeah, it is ratio because it's height and then arm span, and then distribution. We considered it normal distributed just to make the things easy. In paper it was not mentioned, unfortunately. And our goal is to measure association between two variables. So our goal is to measure association between two variables, and these two variables follows both arm span and height are ratio data. It follows normal distribution. This is what we are assuming. So we will use Pearson's correlation. So authors have used Pearson's correlation, but if it does not follow normal distribution, we should use Spearman's correlation. So I think with these examples, it will be very easy for you to select the appropriate test. And this paper, which I have already mentioned in the previous slides, I'll go back to that again so that you can get it from that journal, and you can distribute it to your friends so that they can get idea about the selection of appropriate digital test. Please make a note that around 30 to 40% of statistical tests published in the published paper in medical research are inappropriate. Various researches are there which is done by statisticians, and it is mentioned in those researches that around 30 to 40% of the tests were not appropriate for different reasons. So if you know how to select the test, it will be very good, because that will ultimately help you in your research, as well as it will also help you in the critical appraisal of the published papers. So with this, I think I can end here. If you think that it was a bit complicated, if you think that if you are very new to the this biostatistical area, and if you think you want a workbook which is just for like book for dummies, or you can say that people like very novice people who do not understand data at all, then for that I had it in a book. I'm not actually advertising the book. I'm so sorry, I'm not advertising the book, but this book actually is written by me in 2011. This book has all these things, but this is only for those who are novice, who do not understand basic things about data. So this is a workbook, like a book where you can first the theory is given, then based examples are given, and then based fill in the blanks and MCQs and all these things are given just to make the things easy. So this is all about the lecture. I hope it was meaningful. Examples were a bit less, but I think we need to focus also on attention spam. I think I have already taken 1 hour, and that is the maximum attention spam everyone has, including the presenter. So if you want to ask the question now, you can please go ahead. Please understand, it was the basic thing. It was very basic thing. This is the starting only, right? This is the only starting. Once you understand all these things, then we go to the advanced thing about the survival analysis or post hoc tests, which I have deliberately omitted at this juncture, because even knowing this much is also a kind of achievement if you can grasp this thing easy. So thank you very much. Now you can go ahead with the questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you very much for Dr. Jayakaran for a lucid presentation. There is one question: if the
Yes, sir,
data is
please.
not data is not normally distributed, log transformation is usually done, and then the parametric tests are done.
Yeah,
How
you can
valid
do
is
this.
this procedure?
Yeah, you can do it. You can do this. There are various methods of transformation data, not only log, but there are other methods also. And by transferring this data, parametric test can be used.
Okay. Oh, and second question is, while doing regression analysis, the
Yes.
predictors are usually decided considering its importance by previous literature or depending on the clinical importance. How
Yes.
do we
Yes.
decide the predictor if there are two conditions are not there?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
Yeah.
How do we decide?
While doing regression analysis, the predictors are usually decided considering its importance by previous literature or depending
Yes.
on the
Yes.
clinical importance. अगर इसमें
Yes.
से दोनों भी नहीं है तो how to decide the predictor?
So ultimately it depends on what you want to do with your research actually. What is your goal actually? So whenever you write a protocol, you know what predictor you want to see, right? So you will not select that predictor which is not available. You're getting it?
Yeah.
If I understood your question correctly, you want to ask that what if these predictors are not present in the data? Is this the question?
Means
Hello?
if you don't have any two things, I am just repeating question again. While doing regression analysis, the predictors are usually decided considering its importance by previous literature
That's
or
true.
depending on its clinical importance.
That's true.
How do we decide the predictor if these two conditions are not there?
then why you will select the predictor? I don't understand. Because you
Okay.
only select the predictor, you select the predictor because you want to see the effect of this predictor on the dependent variable, right? Now, who will do such kind of research where at the early stage he want to see the effect of predictor, but he or she did not uh, collect that predictor or information about that predictor. I think that is not possible, right? If I have a design, I know that this predictor I'm going to see at the end of the during analysis, and I will collect that predictor. If that predictor is not there, then I will not go for the research actually. So if that is what the question was, uh, then I think if predictor is not there, then I think see, the problem is whenever we do a write protocol, even we should write the plan for statistical analysis during the submission of protocol. Data should not be tortured at the end to get whatever the positive we can get. So many people can do this, like they just do univariate analysis and whichever variable found significant they use for predictor. This is many people do, but this should not be done, because whenever whatever analysis we do, each comparison increases the type 1 error. So if we do if we use multiple tests to find some predictor, which then again we use in the regression analysis, that will increase the type 1 error to such an extent that it will make all research invalid. So data analysis plan should also be part of the protocol. So there it should be mentioned that we will use this regression analysis with these predictors, these 5 predictors or 6 predictors. Out of these, whichever found significant in univariate analysis, that will be used in the multiple this thing regression analysis. So this should be planned beforehand, even before collecting the data.
So again, Dr. Samrat, I am trying to unmute you so you can ask your question also. Please unmute yourself. He has again asked that the question is whether we see the correlation or association to decide predictor.
No correlation, no correlation. Actually, see, we need to understand that correlation just gives the direction and magnitude of association. It will never give you idea about causality. So correlation should not be used. On the contrary, when we are having various predictors, so during the regression analysis, we can see the autocorrelation between them. If there is autocorrelation, if there is high autocorrelation, then such predictor should not be included, because that will give false values. So correlation
Okay,
is
so
not a method.
I think the sir's basic question is regression analysis will give us a correlation or association.
Regression analysis will give you the prediction as well as causality also, but correlation will only give you direction. The correlation can be false correlation also. So
Okay.
correlation is not should not be taken as causality. Correlation may be used to see autocorrelation between various predictors. When we do regression, if there is a strong autocorrelation between different predictors, then prediction need to be removed from the analysis. So if the two predictors have strong autocorrelation between them, then only keep one predictor, because that will inflate the equation. So correlation different thing, regression is different thing. In regression, correlation is used to see the autocorrelation, just to see if there is a autocorrelation. If there is a high autocorrelation, if correlation is more than 0.7 maybe or 0.8 maybe, then these two predictors which has correlation need to be removed for regression analysis.
Okay, sir. One more question. I think the only question: when regression equation is applied in the research, in general.
So regression is basic. So okay, so let me give you some example. So suppose you want to predict that, let's talk about medical education rather. Okay, so you want to predict which student is going to fail in the pharmacology. Suppose if I want to know which student has more chance of failing in the pharmacology final examination. Now what I will do, I will take data of different students, so I can have various predictor, first year marks, 12th marks, medium of schooling in English or Hindi, and I have various prediction. Now, very predictors. Now, and I also have the result of these students of second year marks. Second year results also there. So now for me, the dependent variable which I want to predict is pass and fail. So it is 1 and 0. It is nominal data. And now based on various predictors, for example, age of student, whether his father was doctor or not, whether he was schooling was English medium or Hindi medium, whether he obtained very good marks in 12th and 10th and first year, and whether he's happy or not, whether his writing is good or bad, all predictors are there. And based on this predictor, if I make an equation, because now I have all the data, so now I will have an equation. Now for the other people, so once this equation is there, because I have very good data and if my equation is there, now once a student enter into the second year, if I put all these characteristics into that equation, the equation will tell me whether he is going to pass or fail. Of course, it will not always be right, but I will get some idea. And if equation is very good, it will give very good idea to me whether the student is going to pass or fail, right? So in regression, we can predict based on the predictors. Now how good our data is, that is very important, and how good our predictor is, that is also very important. So through regression, we can also know that how much percentage of variability in the dependent variable can be explained by this equation. Sometimes it is 40%, 50% is very good. Sometimes 70%, though it is rare, but that is also very good. So we can say that with 70% certainty, we can predict that who is going to fail in the second year pharmacology based on the previous data. So banks are used this. So bank to whom to give loan, that is decided by bank. So they have already have discriminant analysis that is again based on regression. So they put your income and whether you're a doctor or not, whether your spouse is working or not, what is your credit score, and all these things that is already there in their computer system, and they fill all the data, and then based on that they sanction whether they give loan or not. So prediction can be used to actually predict who is going to die, who is going to survive, who is going to do good in exam. But correlation will not be. In correlation, you just get the direction. If one is increasing, other is also increasing. But there may be third factor which may be increasing both these variables. So correlation is will not give causation, but regression is more near to causation. Though for causation we need to have some other criteria also, but regression is very near to causation than the correlation. I think I have made things clear.
Yeah. One more question is, sir, can we use odds ratio to assess the predictor of any disorder or disease?
Any?
Can we use odds ratio to assess predictor of any disorder or disease?
Yes, odd ratio can be used. Of course, odd ratio are used. In regression analysis, odd ratio are used. You can use odd ratios. Depend on your variable again. You can use relative risk also. That depend on the variable.
Okay, sir. So I think there is no more question.
I think
So,
yeah, our aim was, I think see there may be 100 and 1,000 questions related to biostatistics.